What did you say? Omelette de fromage? Oh, Dexter, Dexter! French is the language of love. Oh, say it again, Dexter. Omelette de fromage.
Dexter's Lab, the creation of the amazing Genndy Tartakovsky, best known nowadays for the Hotel Transylvania movies. But more important to me, Ashley, the guy talking, he made Samurai Jack and the incredible Star Wars Clone Wars. No, the other one. Yeah, there you go. And his latest show is Primal, about a caveman who does a lot of rad caveman stuff. I've not seen it, I'm sure it's pretty good. Before Dexter's Lab, he also worked on cool shows like Two Stupid Dogs and Batman the Animator Series. Good old Gen. I call him Gen because we're mates, trust me, we are. Just don't ask him though, because he's a very, very private person. And before we delve into the Dexter's pilot, I think we should have a look at where his influences come from. And one of his biggest upon moving to America were comic books. In particular, an issue of the Super Friends comic based on the TV show. This was the first comic he ever bought. It opened him up to a whole world of art and action, and this action can be seen throughout Dexter's Lab, and is especially influential in the Justice Friends and the Dial In for Monkeys segments of the show. As he got older, his love of art continued to grow, even as he worked 3 jobs. His family pushed him to sign up for advertising classes, a compromise they felt between wanting him to go into business and his love for art. But he showed up too late, and the only classes left was for animation.
I worked night and day making my films. I way overextended myself. And I rose to the top of the program just because, not from talent. I don't think I had to do anything to do with talent. I think it just had to do with, I just worked 6 times more than anybody else on it because I was so passionate about it.
Then, like every other famous person in animation ever, he ended up in Cal Arts. Hooray! He got into this institution though in a real fun way. He sent off a literal shoebox filled with flipbooks he had drawn, and they accepted him into the school based not on his art skills but his passion for animation. Here he became friends with old Craig McCracken and other influential animation people because that's where they all go. It's here in Cal Arts we see the first hint of what would become Dexter's Lab. In his second year project, he made this film about a ballerina girl and came up with the idea of a little square kid for her to interact with. She's about dancing and art, so he was about science, and maybe he had a lab. Just like the Craigster, Genndy has basically his first big hit about 70% formed from the get-go. Must be something in the water in that college. I wish I could have some. The short was a 2.5 minute film with missing audio and several shots without any animation. The prototype Dexter was also voiced by his then roommate who had a very humorous French accent. In these pencil tests we see how close the characters are to their final look, especially for Dee Dee, who has her trademark pigtails and lanky body. Dexter is also very squat and has his lab coat, but his face and hair don't look anything like how his final design would become. Unnamed in this student short, the names Dexter and Dee Dee would come later as he was producing the pilot for Cartoon Network. The short was called Changes, and Genndy had seen the unnamed dancer character as the star of it, and only later when developing the show did the stocky nerd boy take over. Genndy has said the relationship between Dee Dee and Dexter was likely based on him and his older brother, with Genndy being the Dee Dee, which is fun because Genndy actually looks like Dexter, and it's his taller older brother who was the more serious of the two. Eventually Genndy would get to pitch his student film as a short to Cartoon Network and get to work on a full pilot. Genndy said the producers weren't overly impressed with his pitch, but were blown away once they saw the short, and for good reason. This is one of the best shorts I have ever seen. It has so much energy and pretty much nails everything from the get-go. First airing as part of World Premiere Toons, it was originally just titled Dexters Laboratory, but would later be renamed Changes for airing in the original series run. The first thing any fan of Dexter will notice when watching the short is how it is the bones for what would become the Dexter's opening title sequence. If you watch them back to back though, you can see that most of the animation is brand new, with only a few shots seemingly taken from the pilot. And speaking of animation, Jesus Christ, how good does this look? The original run of Dexter before the redesigns looked great, don't get me wrong, but this pilot is on another level. Dee Dee doesn't seem that different at first, but her movement is so fluid and her design is incredible. It seems the same as the series, but just how they draw and use it makes it really pop off screen. You could take any frame and literally frame it, that's how good this short looks. Dexter himself is also no slouch. He seems a bit off model to the series, but that's just because they have him squashing and stretching all over the screen. He also in general seems taller, I think it's how they draw his head in this. In the series he is a lot more constrained and stiff, which suits his character and contrasts him more with Dee Dee. Watching him here though, it really is mesmerizing how nicely animated he is. That's the thing you'll notice with a lot of these pilots. They are trying to impress and get the series picked up, so often they go all out. Then when they get the TV budgets and guidelines, that causes them to pull back on the quality so they can keep on the TV production schedule. Have we talked about the backgrounds yet? Because we need to talk about the backgrounds. Why isn't there an Art of Dexter's book? This short alone deserves its own book. They're just so colourful and detailed, they just really suck you into this amazing world. Again, the backgrounds all look nice in the real show, but here they are just in another league. It's no wonder the execs were blown away. Even those number crunching, pencil pushing nerds are going to see how good this looks. This short really reminds me of the Powerpuff Girls pilot Meet Fuzzy Lumpkins, only this one looks even better than that one did. And that's not a knock on the Craigster, as he was one of the art directors for this pilot along with Paul Rudish. There is a really good quality version of this on YouTube, but it is missing the first minute or two. Your best bet would be to find the full version in the 4th episode of the show. The show will go on to have 3 more pilots as part of world premiere tunes, my favourite of them being the 3rd one, Old Man Dexter. Here Dexter has aged himself up to stay up to watch a movie. The animation is pretty standard to how the show would look and not the tour de force that the first one was. The 3rd pilot ends with Dexter, after initially being too young to stay up to watch the movie, now being too old to even stay awake for it.
Grandpa's dead! No, dear. It's just that he's far too old to stay up this late.
The first pilot also ends in a similar Sunday comic style punchline. There the final gag ends on Dexter and Dee Dee having swapped bodies. In fact, a lot of Dexter feels like a newspaper gag comic done correctly for TV. It's not awkward or slow like the Simpsons shorts and doesn't have the weird pacing of the Charlie Brown specials. With those, it felt like they just took a bunch of 3-panel comics and stitched them together to make one complete story. In Dexter, a lot of episodes, including the pilot I mentioned, are built in this 3-panel gag situation, where it all leads to that 3rd panel punchline that ends most episodes of Dexter. Some examples include the payoff to the episode where he can only say omelette tout fromage, where after this seemingly disability transforms the rest of his life for the better, but ends with causing the self-destruction of his beloved laboratory. There is also the episode where he is late for school, so he slows time down only for it to be revealed that school was cancelled because of a snow day. And one of my favourite episodes that really does this the best involves an ice cream man and a lot of quarters, and leads to one of my favourite punchline endings ever. I won't ruin it, just go watch that episode, it's very good, and watch the pilots while you're at it. Now, to end it on a witty punchline just like Dexter.
Got to find some food!
Boy, I sure did say a thing or two about a thing or two. Who knows what I might say next? Could be something good. Only one way to find out, and that's by liking and subscribing. Go on, you know you want to.